Welcome to Illustrator. This video will go through the process for setting up a drawing. In this case, we'll start off with a new drawing that you can just call Exercise 1 and your last name. You also want to set up this for tabloid size, which is 11 by 17. Set the orientation, whether portrait or landscape, and that you have RGB. And then just simply hit OK. And this will bring up a new sheet, which, if we go to View and bring up the rulers, you can see is 17 inches wide by 11 inches high. One of the things that you can do is to set up guidelines which can help place objects in your scene. And we're going to just set up a border that's 1/4 of an inch all the way around our drawing so that we can simply place or quickly place our image into the appropriate location. We'll also quickly put out a couple of guidelines about 1.5 inches away to allow room for the title block and some other room which we can adjust later for the images. We can now insert the main images. We do this by going to File and Place, and we can bring in the plan that we created in Photoshop. In this case, we're bringing in the PSD file, and we're going to do something called linking this so that any changes that are made in Photoshop will then also be reflected directly into our Illustrator image. So we place that. We're also going to place a couple of other photographs that we have of the site. So we're going to bring in an image of Makmur, which is our site, and we're going to need to scale this down to fit into our guidelines. And then we'll also place in a photograph that we have. And we'll size that down to the appropriate scale. So fairly quickly you can get the major elements of your image pulled together. The next step is to begin defining some of the areas, and one of the things is that we have this large open space around the campus pond which we're going to identify. So we're going to use a rounded rectangle and generally size this, and you can see right now that this doesn't have a line or fill. This is the fill icon. If we double click, we can bring up and define or find a green that we think is appropriate for identifying this important open space. Hit OK, and you can see this green color come into place. We can rotate this so that it's approximately the right orientation and place it into position. We can scale this down so it's not falling off the outside edge of the sheet. And we can also give this a border if we wish. We can define a line, so we go to this line menu and define a weight for the line. And the color is given as black, so you can see that this has a black outline. If we wanted that to be dashed, we could just simply define a distance and a spacing for each of the dashes. And if we zoom in on this, let's select this, select dashed, and you can see that we have a dashed line associated with this object. Now I would like to have this green area, as well as some of the other elements that we're about to add, on a layer that is separate from the base information. So you can see all the objects that we've imported so far, all the guides and the images, and up here we're going to come and set up a new layer. and we'll just go with layer 2. And I want to take the object that we've created already, this green area, and move this up so that it's on layer 2. What we'll now do is, again, go to the pointer here, select the object, and we're going to add some transparency. So the transparency menu, and we're going to set the opacity to 50%. And you can see that this allows us to see through the green down to what's happening below. We'll now look at the process for creating lines. Let's hold down the Alt key and scroll back, and we can use the hand tool to pan over, and we're going to look at a proposed path that cuts through the campus pond. And we're going to use the pen tool, which allows us to simply click points, and you can, by bending, curve this pathway. Right now this is adding fill, which we can turn off in a moment. But you can see that we can adjust the direction of this path to create curved lines as well as straight segments. And just hit enter to end that. Now we can come to our fill and simply hit the red slashed line indicating that there is no fill, and so you can see our line in place. Right now it's a dashed line, which if we wanted we could make this into a much bolder, thicker line. We could also, if we wished, add arrows to either end, and you can scroll down, pick out the arrow style that you wish to have. And you can also scale these arrows. If that is too big, we can set that at 50% or adjust that in whatever way. One of the other things that we can do is to, under the pen tool, you can come and add additional anchor points if we wanted to change the smoothness of this. And for editing, you want the direct selection tool, this white arrow, and that allows you to grab specific points and adjust their location. So again, you can add lines or points, or you can move those points in order to create the effect that you're looking for. And we can zoom in and can begin to adjust the flow of this line. We're now going to go through the process of creating a custom pattern, which will be a brush, and this will redefine the line that we previously drew. So using the ellipse tool, you can see this ellipse, or if we hold down Shift, this will turn into a perfect circle. If we come under brush, we can give this kind of a charcoal type effect. Come under our color palette and we can give this a green fill. And now coming back under brushes, we can actually make this into one of our brushes. So we just simply drag this up into the brush, and you can see new brush. We're going to make this into a pattern brush. Hit OK. And this is going to give us a series of options. This is the first piece that we want, and that's fine. We can scale this down just a little bit and hit OK. So you can see our pattern appear here, and now what we can do is actually redefine this line by double-clicking on our little green circle. Hit OK. And you can see that that dashed line has now been replaced with these green circles. So you can customize line types in any way that you see fit, using the standard patterns that exist within Illustrator or customizing your own. Our next step is to simply make a key to link the photograph with the location of where it was taken on the site. So we're going to use the ellipse tool again, create a circle, and we're going to make this with a black fill. We're then going to come up to our text, just create a number 1 under type. You can see that that's 18 point. We can then highlight this, change the color to white, white, and we can now move this into position on this black background. So this text we can now link, holding down the Shift key and clicking on the circle. We can right-click and make this into a group so that this now moves together. We can copy this, Control-C, Control-V, we can paste this, and we can move this to number 1, and we can move the other number over to its rightful location in front of MACMR so that this will link with the photograph.